Hi, it's David McLean. Welcome to another webinar for DesignBais. Today we are doing DesignBais developed in DesignBais, which is we're going to run through how the website was developed. Just before I start, I'll just make sure that you can hear me okay. If you can you please? Thank you. All right. This is the new DesignBais website. I don't know whether all of you have seen it yet, but effectively this is written in DesignBais, and there's a few new features that we'll run through as well in this presentation. I'll just give you a quick look at the various features that we're using within the new website. We've got the mouse over function. So as I mouse over these image panels here, you see that it's actually displaying an on-form report with the supported browsers. And as I move to the features, it's giving me a list of the features, plus it's giving me the ability to select the version 6 release notes and the compatibility matrix as well. And so on, the versions, standard features of DesignBais, plus the a little by the way you're using it now, so people know that this website is completely written in DesignBais. And apart from a few CSS styling attributes that you need to set for any browser development, everything is basic code. We've got a news panel that we we'll keep updated. We've moved the website now to very much a content-driven website, so it's much easier for us to keep up to date. We've got the overview, we've got a examples page, and I'll show the examples page during this exercise and how that was put together. Testimonials page and the test drive and the support page. Now this menu at the top is actually an on-form report. And this DesignBais form that you're looking at now, this I'll take us back to the home form, is a single form, and these panels are just basically enabling or hiding and enabling various images and on-form reports on the screen. And then we go into the test drive. Now we've built the test drive to basically show people a little bit about what DesignBais can do as far as the user interface is concerned. And one of the newer features now is the predictive indexing. So if I type in CONT, short for containers or contractors, you can see down the list, down the right hand side here, I have a list of clients that have a name with contractors in it, or a street or a suburb that have CONT in it. So I can continue to refine that particular list, and if I could spell correctly, then when I get to contra, then you see I've got just oh, that's not spelled right. That's why it's not showing up. I've got a spelling mistake in my client file. So you can see they're contrary court, so it's picked up contractors in Cameron Electrical, and it's also picked up the street name as well as a match. And there are ways to target that, so I could say I only want this to go to the client names, or I only want this to go to a street name or a suburb, or I am providing a street name, or I'm providing a suburb. Now show me the street names that match what the user's typed in for that particular suburb. We've got the client listing as well. I'll run that report just very quickly and show you that what we also have with this, and I'm going to show how that's done today as well, is the drill into the report. So I'm just going to quickly show how that is achieved as well. So that's taken me into the client screen in inquiry mode. I'll close that. And then something else that's very, very useful that's on this site is the code examples. And there's some various files here that explain a lot of what we're going to go through today, and there's also the complete code for the website. So all the code that was being used to generate the website is actually there on the website. So anything that you want to see how it's done programmatically, that's available for you there. So let's start at the beginning. This first form, this was the main home screen. I'll just go into the Forms Designer. And we'll start with DBI website front, because it is the front screen. And I've kept the naming quite simple. So within the program that's on the samples page, you can see fairly easily which pages are doing what. So it's got a standard form width and depth. It's got a style group, and I'll explain the style group behind this particular form shortly. It's got a process after display, and it's got a form. It's got a form centering, which is a new feature in Release 6. If a form has a side menu assigned to it, centering will be ignored. But if a form and you're running it in the cross-browser mode, I suppose, for the commercial grade, then form centering will be applied. Typically for commercial grade applications, because you tend to have side menus and top menus, you tend to not have form centering. But when you're running public grade applications like websites and customer portals and things like that, you do tend to not have side menus. You do tend to have top menus, so you would use centering in that case. So what DesignBais does is it looks at the very first form in the set and says, well, is the form centered there? Then it makes every form that follows, providing there are no side menus, I should say, it will make those centered as well. So you can incorporate forms that you've got in your normal commercial grade application that may work without side menus into this mechanism as well, just by having one of the start forms as a centered form. So we'll go into Designer for this particular form, and what we see is effectively a whole lot of images, an on-form report here at the top. Now this on-form report is named r.menu front, and that is what is displaying up here. There is some text there, or it's actually an image, which is the DesignBais logo as an image. Now this could be included into a header form if you wanted to do it that way. I chose not to do it that way for the website because I thought it would actually be better to have the individual examples of the forms so people could see what was being done on the form individually. If we have a look at sections, sections form is actually quite detailed now, but I'll ignore the bottom part for the moment. We'll just concentrate on the top. So I have a main section. So the main section, if we just have a look at that, so I'm just saying currently viewing the main section, so I only want to see the main, the section that is called main on this form. It is essentially these images down the bottom plus the menu at the top. There is another on-form report there which is called r.headers, and there is another on-form report there which is r.main.details. So I've got three on-form reports on this screen, and if we have a look at the site when it's running, you'll see that the menu being the first on-form report, this missing piece to your browser development puzzle is the second, and then the quote down here is the third. Now the reason that that's done that way from my point of view is that just means that we can maintain, using a text file, we can maintain the various on-form reports that are on this screen just using the DesignBais editor, and I don't have to worry about redesigning or redeploying the forms at all. I can just change the slogan and the quotes whenever it's appropriate and in text, and that will automatically apply then to this site. And I'll show you how that's done, how we've done that shortly. I've just got an image here, which is the jigsaw puzzle image. I've got another image over here, which is the version 6 logo. And then there's another image here, which is called DBS whiteout. So effectively, we just have a big white panel behind all of this that effectively occupies the majority of the space outside of the images that are on there. And the reason we do that is because we want to have a mouse over, or I wanted to have a mouse over area that I could be assured that I would get mouse over and mouse out events. So as I move, just using the developer, as I move over a control that's on the form, you'll see that the cursor changes to a hand. That's effectively a mouse over event, and as I move away from it, the cursor goes back to the pointer, and that's a mouse out event. So if we look at sections, in version 6 we've got all of these mouse control functions, and because this form has quite a lot of these mouse over functions, there are actually quite a lot of there is quite a lot of detail that I've filled in when building this particular site. So if we have a look at the image here down the bottom here, this one here, this is called cross-browser tile. I'll just close that down so we can actually see the image properly. Is probably the best thing to do. Click on that image, go to properties for that image, and you will see that the image is in the directory DBWS for the website, and then it's called cross-browser tile.png, and that is its standard state. And then we have the mouse over state, which is DBWS cross-browser tile hover.png. So effectively that name as a whole then is something that I can refer to this image as within the section control. Because what I want to occur is when the user mouses over that cross-browser panel, I want something to happen. So in the sections, now I can specify what I want to occur when the user mouses over this. So there's a mouse over function. When the user mouses over that particular image, I want to display the r.browser on-form report. And the r.browser on-form report, I'll just show you, as I mouse over that supported browsers on-form report shows up with the images of the browsers on it and the descriptions. That displays, and as I mouse off that, that on-form report disappears. So effectively there is my display of that, and there is my hide. So as I mouse out of that, there's the hide for the r.browser. And you can see that as I mouse over that, I'm also hiding the jigsaw, which is this image here, and doing a whole lot of other hiding of the other controls that may be there at that particular point in time. That really depends on how you use your images, the size of the images, because you might have a situation where one image is slightly bigger than, the background image is slightly bigger than the one that you want to overlay. And if that's the case, you need to hide the background image plus and then display the overlay. So effectively, as you can see, this is quite complex. Now, I did talk about this whiteout image, and this whiteout image in the designer, sorry, I'll just go back to the designer. This whiteout image was this big image that is sitting in the back here that basically occupies all that space. And the reason for that is because the mouse out event for the browser sometimes doesn't fire quite as quickly as you would like. So if I move slowly from one image to the next, and that all works perfectly if I move slowly. But if I move quickly, if I move the mouse very, very quickly, sometimes that mouse event doesn't fire. And that's just seems to be across the board as far as browsers are concerned. They all seem to suffer from that. So what I've done is I've put this big image behind it just to make sure that when the mouse is at rest somewhere in this panel, that that this image then is controlling that mouse out event. And it is really just there because of if somebody moves the mouse very quickly, that there is always a place on the form that will accept that that mouse out event, if you like, and then turn all the other features off. So if we have a look, go back to the sections again. So effectively, to build this, it's just a matter of understanding that if I mouse over a particular image, then I want to display either an image, a button, or an on-form report in this case. And the reason that we chose buttons, on-form reports, and images is because they have a fairly solid surface area, so it's easy to get the mouse over events to trigger on those. If you have mouse over events on on input fields and stuff, it starts to get a little bit difficult as far as just because of the surface area, and to get a reliable event. So as you can see there, when you mouse over the whiteout PNG, this one at the background, we hide the button for the matrix, the release matrix, the button for the release notes. We hide another white image, which is one that just sits above the this application button here, just so the user can move the mouse between this button and the features lists. So it does add a little bit of complexity, but not a massive amount of complexity to the application. It is very much a construct of if the mouse is over this particular field, this particular image, on-form report or button, then there are certain other events that are going to happen. Hide all these other images, show all these on-form reports and buttons. So that's a fairly simple construct. Now I'm just going to open up another session because I'll show how that same technique was used on the test drive form. So if we have a look at the DBI website, test drive. Oops. This form has a little question mark in the right-hand corner of the search panel. So if we see what that does on the actual website, I'll just go to the test drive page, and if we see what that does in this page, as I hover over that, it's actually bringing up some help for the form. So that's a useful mechanism if you want to add some help text for input fields. You can do that. I wouldn't have too many instances of that on forms. I tend to have one or two instances of that on a form to explain a section of the form as opposed to explaining necessarily what a single field does. But that's entirely up to the parameters for your own design. Now how that's done, if I go back to this image here is called dbws question.png. If I go into the sections now, this is a nice simple one. So if I mouse over the question image, display the help on form report. When I mouse out of that particular image, so in other words when the user moves the mouse away from that image, hide the help text. So that's very, very simple. And in most cases that's all you will need to do. But there are instances where you might want to have graphs that hide, and then people just mouse over a particular indicator to see the graph associated with some figures. That can be a nice touch on a form. The other thing I want to explain now is just in the sections. We've got, say, that the browser section. I'll just show that. So the browser section of the form just has an on-form report on it named r.browser. That's all that's on that particular section. So I'll just go back to the section logic, and you can see here that browser, so that is the on-form report that does that browser display. So as I move over the cross-browser image, it's displaying that supported browsers. So the browser now has a different state, and that is a hidden state with no section logic at all. Because typically what happens with the DesignBais section logic is down here it says it's permanently hidden, or it's hidden in a particular condition. So the section logic is looking at the form. After every server hit, it looks at the form as a whole and says, okay, these things have changed. I need to apply some section logic to that now. So that section logic may then override what you are telling it will override the behavior that this particular mouse control functions are doing for the various various on-form reports or various buttons. So what we do when we have in this case a browser list that shows up on an on-form report, I want that to be hidden with no section logic. That just means hide that section completely from the start and don't apply any section logic to it at all. Then the section logic, we assume, is going to be handled by this mouse control function. That's why the mouse control function is on the sections form, essentially, just to give you that total picture as to what's going on in the form. So then I can be assured that this r.browser on-form report won't be displayed by sections, it won't be hidden by sections, it'll only be controlled by what the buttons do. So I'll just display a little bit more of this form now. I'll just go to the Rel 6 section. And Rel 6 is essentially exactly the same. It is just an on-form report, and there is nothing else on that either. So again, when we go over the Rel 6, this on-form report that is up here, this events, activity logs, and so on, that is just controlled then by this particular panel. Now this one's a little bit trickier, because what I wanted to do, if I go to this features and then mouse off that features, you'll see that it goes back, likewise with the cross browser, it goes back to the main image on the back. This 6 features though, because we've got the view compatibility matrix and the view version 6 releases, this is actually another image on top of the base panel, which is the one there. So as I mouse over it, another image overlays that, and as that image overlays, it actually increases the surface area of that particular image's that image applies to. So that allows the end user then to be able to mouse up over these couple of buttons without then losing the context of the whole Release 6 features page. And then as I mouse onto something else, those extra couple of items that are displayed there, they also get hidden by that action. So, it's, as I said, it's actually a fairly simple process. So I'll just go and have a look quickly at the on-form report that is used to create these this cross-browser page. So I'll just call up the editor. Now there are some examples on the website of the various, I'll get the program up first. So as we go into the front screen, there is an after display event on the front screen. And here is the after display event for the front screen. We set DB store 1 to 1, so that basically, DB store 1 is used to determine what menu position we're on at the moment. So for the front, as we come in, the front there is yellow. That just basically means that is the current item. So as I move between home and samples, that becomes yellow, and that becomes the active item. So DB store 1 at this particular point would be 4, and as I move back, DB store 1 is set to 1. So then we go sub build.r.menu front. So that's going to build the front menu right at the top of this program, and you'll see it in when you download this example if you choose to. That here I've got a screen list variable, and here are all the forms that run out of that first option. So DB website, front, news, overview, samples, testimonials, and so on. And what the end user sees is home, news, overview, samples, testimonials, test drive, and support. So then when we get down to the after display event, we go to build.r.menu front. We set up a width list for those items. So this is again setting up an on-form report. These are the various widths that each of those items on the menu occupy. I could have written a routine to work out the length of each item and calculated that, but couldn't be bothered. So for DL equals 1 to 7, so 7 items in the menu. Set the output width. I'm setting the output headers to null. The reason I'm doing that is because I actually want no output headers on this particular on-form report. So I'm setting the DB report header attribute for the print number and the column to height 0. So that just removes the header completely. So then I'm saying if DL, so if the current column is not equal to DB store 1, then I want to set some class details. So I'm setting output attribute to a class. Now I could say background color equals background color red and color white and all of those sorts of individual style parameters, or I can just basically assign it to a class called DBWS menu out. Now there's certain advantages in doing this is that sending data between the database server and the client, I'm only sending 15 or 20 characters there, as opposed to the whole style definition for that particular attribute. We just have I'll just open up another page and just show you that particular style definition. So instead of having all of that on a style line, I've just basically said class equals DBWS menu out, which means background color transparent, put a cursor pointer in there. So that means that as I move over the option, the hand will be displayed, or whatever the default pointer is set up for the machine is. I'm setting no border, I'm setting a text align center, vertical line center, and a height of 50 pixels. I've got also a foreground color of this lightish gray. So all of those things that would normally go in output attributes, now I just basically say, now I just say class equals DBWS menu out. Then one of the new items in version 6 is output mouse over. So as I mouse over each of these items on this on-form report, I want to change the class. So in this case, DBWS menu out is the default class. I want to change that to DBWS menu over. Now the reason we just don't default to the standard class there is I may actually want to return to a different class when the user mouses out of that particular cell. just to show, to show some change, as though they've moused over it, they've seen it, and I want to change the class, put a tick on it, or do something like that. You can do that sort of thing. So that's why there's 2 in this output mouse over. So the DBWS mouse over event, class, let's just have a look at that briefly. It now has a background color of 66666, which is another gray. So we can see that as I mouse over, I have that gray shading show up, and also the color, the foreground color, moves from the CCC to white. So that's how that particular styling is done. So it is really only a couple of lines of code. So if I go back down to here, that's essentially how I'm setting that mechanism to be in place. So if DL is equal to the menu item, what we're doing then is we're setting it to a different class called DBWS menu action. So we'll have a look at this, DBWS menu action. And you can see the background color transparent, but effectively it sets it to this FFFF9F, which is that yellow color that is being displayed here. So that's really, those 10 lines of code are controlling the look and the feel of that particular on-form report, or that particular menu item. Now, typically an on-form report is a solid creature. It has a standard white background. So what I want to do is I want to override that by using the DBOFR spec variable to say, for the variable, for the on-form report r.menu front, make the background color transparent. And also for r.menu front, make the border style none. So that means then that this on-form report that is displayed up here essentially has no background at all, and it is transparent. So it will then inherit, I suppose, what is behind it, and what is behind it is an image, and this image is essentially what is known as a body style. So if we just have a quick look at body style, and I'll bring up the style groups form, and the style groups form is controlling the entire website. So we have various styles for our website. So there's website 2, 3, and so on. And you can see here there is a body styling class, DBV6 body class 2. So if I go to that style, have a look at the style definition for that, you'll see that there's a background image. Well, there's a background that's actually provided by a URL. It's images DBWS body layer 2, and it repeats across the x-axis to the top and left justification. So in this case, what that's doing is that's taking body layer 2, which is essentially a 75 or 80 pixel depth image by about 2 or 3 pixels wide, and repeating it across the top of the website. So essentially that takes the 2 pixel image up here and copies it right across to the right hand edge of the website. So that gives me this sort of black header behind all of this on-form report. So that's a very, very easy process to achieve. So if I change that now to body layer and submit that, refresh this page, I think I've done the right one. Now you see I've got this other black band across the bottom of the page, and you can see that these white panels now are basically sitting on top of that image structure. So that's just a demonstration of how you change the body layer's image, and in this case the image that I replaced that with is a very long image. Again, it's only a couple of pixels wide, and it stretches that all the way across the form. So I'll change that back to what it was. Back to body layer 2, submit that. Now as I change the styles, I do need to refresh the browser, because the browser does load the style sheets at the start. So now this is back to this different body style, so now I've just got this image at the top. So we've gone through how the on-form report for the header is built. Let's have a look at the on-form report now for, say, one of the other items that show up. So I'll go back to the after display page, after display event for this particular program, and there is my front form. I build r.menu front, and then I build r.browser. So let's have a look at the r.browser program. So I'm saying the report number in this case is 5. So on my forms designer, I'm going to have an on-form report there called r.browser, and it is going to be report number 5 on that form. So then I read browser rec from DBI website browsers. So let's just have a look at that particular. It's effectively just a text file. Sorry, I copied the wrong one. What's it called? Browsers. Okay. So all we've done with this is we've structured this as being text. So if the text starts with a square bracket, it's an image. If it doesn't, then it's text. And you can see we've put some HTML tags around the Internet Explorer in this case to be bold and italic. That's the Internet Explorer, and then there's a ampersand trade, gives me a trademark symbol, and then I've closed off that with an italic bold, and then some more text, and then the next image. So essentially in the program now, we're building for the number of items that are in that list, checking to see what the first character is. If it's an image, then we're adding if there's anything already, then we go and add the lines, so that way as we've come into each new image, it'll add the line to the report. So in this case though, I've got output attribute padding left 55 pixels, background URL images BWS this image, no repeat left and center. So essentially that there is building this on-form report with the supported browsers, with the Internet Explorer with the trademark symbol and the percentages. That's actually one of the reports that we found as far as internet usage, one of the recent ones, and that's telling us that percentage is the percentage of usage for those particular browsers. So that's effectively how that's done, and it's again another well, it's probably 20 lines of code in this case. In this case though, we're not going to make the background color transparent. We want it to be solid, and there's a process refresh there for r.browser, so to build that. So effectively when this front screen is displayed to start with, we build all of the on-form reports. So there's the menu, there's the browser one, there's the welcome is the news, the version 6 features. actually we probably don't use welcome anymore. Features, the normal features, and so on. And we've ended up building this build report general routine, which basically says, for report number 8, read this text record. That's the report name I'm updating. Align gap sets line height spacing, set the standard font size, set the standard background color that I want to use for that particular on-form report, and then go and build report general. So effectively we can just set up 4 or 5 lines of code and then go and build the on-form reports over and over and over again. In the ones that have a similar style all get built with this build.report general routine, which effectively sets some attributes at the start. And again, they could have been they also could have been classes if I wanted to use those. I tend to use classes where I'm doing things over and over and over again. I just and there's a lot of that particular class used around the system. But if the on-form reports are small, they're only 3 or 4 lines, I just basically use the styling, choose to use the styling. So again, number of lines in the text file that I've read. Build the output attributes and the output reports for that. If the background styling is null, set background color to white. Otherwise, in this case, I've just set it to transparent. What I probably should have done in that case is just set it to the actual variable of the background style. That would have made more sense. And then update the report with the report name. So, again, a couple of dozen lines there to build 80% of the on-form reports that are on that particular screen. So effectively, it's the same construct used now for all of these various on-form reports that you see around the place. The examples one is again another on-form report, and this time it's got a clickable response. So I'll just find that in the So in this case, I've got to build r.samples. So it's not catered for in the general routine. Set some standard output, and as we read the various images, so it starts off by reading the website and the examples page. So I'll just quickly show you that. No, I won't show you that. It looks like it's not allowing me to. I must have some HTML that it's not. Oh, no, there it goes. Okay, so again, the first line's the image, the second line's the text, first line, then image, text, and so on. So, so the routine is essentially just going through that that list of images with the text, displaying the image here. So this is, I'm just setting the image there to the image name, setting the background URL to that, with, again, no repeat. Now the reason you put no repeat there is that if you don't, the image will repeat a number of times to fill up its container. A lot of the older websites used to have the same image repeated over and over and over again in the background. That sort of doesn't get used as much nowadays. So typically we just set no repeat, center, and that will ensure that the image is centered within the cell on a vertical and horizontal axis, and that it doesn't actually repeat. So the output keys in this case are set to just the second column is clickable, and the name, the actual value that will get returned to the report end, or to DesignBais when the user clicks on that, is the actual image name. So if we go into the report section of the program now, and we have a look at the examples report. So if screen number samples and rows, so somebody's actually clicked a row and DB value is not null. Then there is associated with DB value is the actual name of the form. So effectively we're going to call DB website samples 2 and pass the name of the image to the subroutine. So that means that when I click on that, it's calling DB website 2. It's a bit slow to display because of the webinar, but so it's showing you the examples form. And so now with this mode now, this is all running in Chrome. Typically in the IE version, the one that we've all used for some time, the modal window is actually a modal window. It is something that has its own characteristics that aside from in the parent window. These modal windows are actually part of the parent window, and they're a panel that we actually construct on the parent window. So so you can still move them around the same as you could the previous ones, but you can't go past the boundaries of the page that you're on. But they are there's much less effort from the browser side to display this type of window. So I think you'll see that there's performance benefits in that approach. What I would like to do now is have a look at this test drive page, because one of the things that we've got in the website now is this search facility up here, which is what we looked at earlier when I was looking at contractors spelled incorrectly. So I'll put in CON, and then we'll find here containers and a number of so there's one there at Coney Island that's come back from that particular search across, which is searching across the entire string. So I'd like to talk about how that is constructed as far as this website is concerned. So I'll go back to DesignBais here, and we'll have a look at the word index definition, which is effectively the definition for describing the way you build the index for a particular file for predictive indexing, or for predictive searches, predictive text searches. Here I have the client file. Now I can have multiple indexes on the client file, or I can so I could have an index that was just the client name on the client file, or just the street address, or just the suburb, or even just the postcode if I wanted to. Or alternatively, I can have a single index that is all of these values combined into essentially one string, even though the string is still delimited. It's effectively value mark delimited as it gets passed into the index engine. So the advantage of that is that we can still attack it on individual parts, and I'll explain how that's done shortly. So for this particular index, it's called DB client index number 1. DesignBais will assign, when you click the new index option over here, it will assign the next index number. The reason for that is that we just don't want to store the file name in the indexes, just from a space point of view and from an ease of maintenance point of view, because this index file that these indexes get stored in, I can store all of my indexes in the one file if I want to, or I can separate them and have separate indexes. So that's why we have an index number. In this case, I have no selection statement to drive the selection of clients. I might have situations where I'm building one for, say, the forms file, where I want to select all of the forms that input forms, so then I can build a predictive text index for the actual application functionality that I have. But in this case, so I just want to index the details of the client, their name, their street address, suburb, and postcode. I'm going to leave these fields as alpha fields, so if there's any numbers in the client name or street address, get rid of them. So that way I get rid of if it's number 10 Pacific Highway, North Sydney, I get rid of the number 10 and just get the Pacific Highway and North Sydney part of that. Though the suburb, I'm leaving it as entered, and the postcode, I'm leaving it as entered. But when it says word next to it, it gets rid of any connective characters like underscores and hyphens and pluses and brackets and all of those things which hinder the data entry in the search process. There is also numeric only, so if I want to keep, if I want to have just numeric values, I can use that as well. The modifier case, I typically just leave that as uppercase. That just basically means it'll be stored in the index as uppercase. So here, this says search in any order. So what that basically means is that I can approach the index with the suburb first and then the street name. Or if the street name is Harry Bloggs Parade, I could search that as Harry Bloggs Parade or Parade Bloggs Harry, so I can attack that in any order. With the client name though, this has got the combined values for the search. So if I had a client name that was Harry Bloggs, it will only find Harry space blogs in the index. It won't actually look for blogs Harry. If I wanted to look for blogs Harry, then I would change that to search in any order. So then when the user actually performs the search, as I've done here with CON, you can see there that it's displayed the client name, the street, the suburb, and the postcode on over 3 lines. And it's also highlighted the CON in green. So in the fields to display, client, street, suburb, and postcode again, the found color is this green, and it is best to ensure that any colors that you put in there are in uppercase, because all the displays, as you can see here, are lowercase. So that way, if there is a color, if there is a client that is red, that's name includes the word red in it, and you're using a lowercase color of red, then you'll end up highlighting the highlight. So in actual fact, I think this has been changed now, so it does uppercase conversion anyway. So just, I tend to use the hex colors. That way there is no problems with any display and color replacements. Down here on the suburb and postcode line, I'm concatenating those 2 lines together with a hard space. And the reason I've used a hard space there is the browser will remove it if it's only a soft space. So if it's only a space which is the normal typical space, the browser removes it. So you are best to use a hard space in that case. If you wanted to use pluses or dashes and all those sorts of things, parentheses, you can do that there as well. Let's say this was a phone number, this postcode was a phone number, and you just wanted to let people know that that was a phone number or which phone number it was, then you can put in a description prefix there, and that will put the bracket PH space phone number into that list as well. If you want to suffix it with a description, you can do that also. If you wanted to put phone number at the end to tell them that number that they're seeing is the phone number. So essentially this is driving the display or the contents of that box. Now we've got the display class, the selection class, and the title class. I'll just go back to this again. Now the reason that list is not there, there is a loss of focus event with these, so the list goes away when it loses focus. So that way it's not affecting the other applications process. So you can see here that the client suggestions is this green color italic bold font at the top. That is the title class. Then there's the display class, which is what all of these are, and then there's the select class, which is what happens when I mouse over that particular field. mouse over these suggestions, I get the selection class, and that is controlled by the display class, the selection class, and the title class. I set a maximum row height in pixels, so that way I know how big each one of these cells are going to be. I can control that. So I can control that to a maximum, just again for uniformity of display. And then we've got a controlling field, DBC key part 1. Now how is that used in this form? What happens is that when the user selects a value from that list, it will get moved to this field, which is this DBC key part 1.work field. So my controlling field is DBC key part 1. So what that means is that whenever I use this index, I must have, if people are going to actually make a valid selection, I must have this field on the form. And in this case, there's the field. Now we just have a look at that field. We'll see that the process after is db.i.dbi website. So essentially what's happening is that we're getting a stack into this field of the value that was selected. Then the validation event occurs. So if we have a look at this program, at the validate event, we can see, is the screen number test drive? Yes, it is. Is the event source DBC key part 1.work? Yes, it is. Okay, so the client code is field of DB value for the part 2s, because what happens is that because I can build multiple, I can display, I should say, I can have multiple indexes displayed here. Each of the client codes associated with these clients is prefixed with the actual index that list comes from. So that way, if I had client suggestions and then I had creditors suggestions, or I had application suggestions, and they're all listed in this list because I can run multiple passes through indexes at the same in the same call, then I need to tell the program what index this actually came from. In this instance, I know that it's only the single one, so I'm just extracting the second part. But DB value would look like DB client star 1 in uppercase, which is the name of the index pipe, and then the client ID. So that's what that would look like. That's what DB value would look like at the time. So I set client code to that. I pass DB value, which is now the client code, and then I pass to the client code field. What this allows me to do is this allows me to say, well, was the first part of the key provided DB client star 1? Yes, it was. Okay, well then I'm passing a value to the client. Is it an application suggestion? Yes, it is. Okay, well then DB value actually has the name of the form, so I could process stack that. So that's why we have this multi-part structure as far as DB value is concerned. Then I call this routine dbi.g.displayDrop, and what that does is that gets rid of this particular on-form report, if you like. This is actually, this is all an on-form report. It's the 11th on-form report, which is the one that is reserved for DesignBais. Then I set the search key to null, because when the user has selected something up here, I want to remove that and get rid of that report. And then I set DB return to field to client code, so the cursor sits back nicely in the client code for the end user. We'll just have a quick look now at how this search form, how this search field controls the actual display of these items. So the very first thing that I need to do once I've defined my index is build it. And there is a DesignBais program, dbi.p.dbfindex build, that you can run at TCL that will build the index for you. And once that is complete, any update that DesignBais does from that point will automatically get updated to the indexes. On the website, there is in the code samples creating predictive text, which does detail those routines that get called. If you're not using DesignBais to update the files, but you still want to update predictive indexing, you can call dbi.g.dbfindex with the index name and the type of update you're doing, whether it's a complete build, an update, or a delete, and the ID, and it will then update the indexes for you. So that way, regardless of whether you're using DesignBais to update your files or not, the indexes can still get maintained. Sorry, I'll go back to the test drive form. So what we've got on this particular search now is a key press event on this search field. So let's just have a look at that on the form. So if we have a look at this search field now, we'll see that I'm going to call db.i.dbi website, which is the program that this whole entire website uses, and I'm going to call that on a key press. So what DesignBais does now in release 6 is the user, to avoid each character being sent to the database, DesignBais waits 300 to 400 milliseconds after the user has stopped typing before it sends the request. That way the user's keystrokes, it provides a much more natural interface. The same as Google and Bing, and Yahoo use very similar techniques. So we get this key press event, and this key press event in the program So here it is. If the screen number is test drive, which it is, and the event source is DBC search keyword, which it is, if the length of DB value, in other words, the text that had been entered in that field, if that field is blank, so in other words somebody's backspaced or deleted what was in that particular field, call db.g.display_drop. So in other words, get rid of the drop down. So if I key in, say, A, up pops a list. If I remove that now and the length of DB value is 0 at that point, then that disappears. If I type in CON very quickly, you'll see that it waited before it sent the data to the server, and it sent CON as one piece. It didn't send C first and then O second and then N the third time. So what that gives you the ability to do is provide a much better interface to your end user, that they're not waiting for the server to respond for each keystroke. So that is just an example. That's actually not doing anything. What I'm showing there is that you could have a situation where you're passing multiple indexes through to this db.g.get dbfindex routine. That's the DesignBais routine that returns the key list, if you like, from the index files specified by the DB client 1 definition. So I could replace that literal there with this variable and put that in there, and then DesignBais would search across the 3 indexes for the value entered. Pass value. I'm setting pass value to DB value. The reason I'm doing that is that the get index routine calls security processes that you may have defined, because if I key in franc, there could be 50 francs in the system, but me as an end user can only see 5 of those francs, and that is determined by some subroutines that you have written and plugged into the standard DesignBais entity security model, and those routines may use DB value. So what we do to protect DB value is we set pass value to DB value and then use that to pass it through to the get dbfindex record. I'm going to return key list. So when the user types in CON as I just did, key list will have a number of keys returned that will be DB client *1 pipe and then the value, then the client ID for the number of items returned. And in this case I'm saying limit the depth of search to 20. So only return the first 20 items found. If I was using multiple indexes like this, where I'm passing multiple indexes, I would reduce that number, say, down to 10. Because you don't, in this mechanism, if I'm typing in CON and I am returning 1,000 records, I've got to get the 1,000 descriptions back to the client, and then I'm just going to have something with a big scroll bar that's useless for the end user anyway. So the best thing to do is to get the end user to key in a couple of more characters to limit the response. So you can see there, when I've got container in there, I've got the two results that bring back container. So it's gone off against any number of records in the file and then returned the exact results at that point. So I would limit that, and 20-30 is probably about the most that I would recommend you using. Now that's the get routine. We have a display routine, and the reason we have two routines is because this bit in the center gives you the ability then to write your own code for your own security system. If you've got your own security model, you're not using DesignBais's entity-based security model. The get index will provide you a list of clients or application items or creditors or whatever it is, products that match the criteria. And in between the get and the display, you can say, okay, now call my security routine to refine this key list down to what the users can see against your own security model. The display parameters are where on the x-axis, where on the y-axis is this box that display is going to show up, and how wide is it and how deep is it in pixels. So that gets passed through to the display parameters there as well. Now we repeat the indexes. DB client, the pass value, the key list. Return array just returns you a display array just in case you want to do anything else more with that. Somebody's just asked what happens when the Findex has the Findex string has a space in it. That's fine. It splits the word that I've entered into two and does the search on the index where both values appear. So so yes, in here. What have I got? I'm just wondering. Station. So if I type in station, sorry, I'll need to type in service station. That's brought back both words in that case. So if I get rid of that, that's found there's service center there. So if I go service space C, that should bring back service center. Now it's also brought back service circle in that instance, because both of those at that point are true. Once I type in the E though, you can see there that it's now brought back service center. Now it's highlighted the CE there just in the string just to show that there is another instance of that, but it is really tracking the service and center. It's what starts with, it's what it's starting with at that particular point. So I hope that answered that particular question. As I was saying, the return array just returns the array that was built to display, just for your reference if you wanted to pull that apart any further. And the display parameters are the X, Y locations and the depth and the width of the field. There is also this final field which is null in both of these cases, which is the passed from field. I might have a situation where I say the DB value entered was passed from the client code. I don't actually have the index really set up to do this, so but I'll just talk through the example. I can say that that value that you're being passed is passed from the client code. So don't bother looking for that value in the client code because I already have it. What I want you to do now is look in the other three values that are postcode, suburb and street for the values that I'm providing. So that's a nice way to be able to target your input because they've already provided you the suburb. What we're searching for now is the street name. So that's what the passed from does, and we also include that in the display dbf index. So you can see in a very small number of lines of code, as far as the key press event is concerned, we've got that functionality now. And as I said, that can be across many indexes. What a lot of our clients are doing now that have been beta testers for release 6, they actually have a header on their application now. So all their forms have a header form that has a search bar in it. And so then the user can type in anything into that search bar, and then it'll go off and check clients and products and creditors and system application functions, and then say, provide the client suggestions and the creditor suggestions and the product suggestions and the application suggestions that match that particular string that's entered. Then the user can say, oh well, I was looking at receipting, and then look in the list and it'll have application suggestions, receipt entry. Then they can click on that, and then the logic behind that then says, well, what do you want to do with that particular function at that point? They'll call a standard routine. It says, oh well, this is an application, it's receipting, and here is the screen ID for that. Go off and stack in the receipting, and then in a lot of cases they'll display that on top of the existing window. So that's a nice little get to a particular part of an application quickly without destroying the application layer that I've got right now. Okay, so this form here, we've just put some index panels behind, image panels behind these particular fields just to sort of dress it up a little bit. Some people like that particular style, and some people don't. I'm not particularly sold on it either way. And just the support window, you'll see that because I've already logged into this, I go straight to the downloads page, and we have hyperlinks, and so we've got the web server components first, then the database components with the various supported platforms showing up there with the version 6 full and version 5 and the components for those, the supporting installation notes. That again is just 3 on-form reports: the downloads on-form report, the web server components on-form report, and the database components one. I'll just very quickly show the database component one. Now, I think that's the name of it. It's not. Just bear with me. I'll go to the program, and it'll tell me what it's called. Oh, if I could type, my life would be much easier. Right, r.downloads, downloads database. So that's using downloads database. Okay, this time we've got the database components with just some simple HTML around that to set a font color and a size and make that italic. I've got a split there with a pipe, so there's a multi-column, and then I've got a couple of characters that determine what the header type will be. So because I've got a plus in front of that, the header type shows up there as green with the white text. If it's a left-hand square bracket, it's a subheading and it's Windows. So it's a fairly simple text document to put together. It's actually very simple, and you can see that that's the actual path to that particular file, and so that allows us then to just maintain the whole structure of the uploads and stuff essentially in a text document. And I'll just show you programmatically now how that's what happens there. So the database character is the first character, and then the actual text is what's left over. So if it's null, just put a break line. If it's a plus, then set that style structure. If it's a square box, that type of style structure. If it's a squiggly, so the database character, if it's a squiggly database character, then we set the class again, the mouse over classes, so the standard class and the mouse over classes for both of the columns. So you can see that that's value marked delimited for both of the columns, as is displayed here. So as I mouse over, it changes it to the underlined link. So that's really how that's put together. Somebody's just asked a question about the hourglass. When I click on something now that you've got this spinning icon that shows up, that is actually just the standard. There is an image in the DesignBais release that controls that, so you can change that. It's a GIF, so you can change that to any sort of structure or get rid of it if you don't want it. We did have some requests, a number of requests for server hits to have that spinning wheel, so we've added that. As I said, you can get rid of it just by changing the image. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head though, but if you need to know what it is, email support and we'll follow that up. Are there any other questions? Because that hour and a half went very quick for me. I'm not sure whether it went quick for you, but are there any questions before we stop the webinar? If you have any questions and you can't think of them now, just email support at DesignBais, or go to the test drive samples page, because a lot of the stuff that we've covered today is in the code samples. Doesn't look like there are any questions, which is always a concern. So anyway, well, thank you very much for your time. If, as I said, if you have any further questions, please email support at designbais.com, and we'll talk to you on the next